To ask General Clark, who's with us. General, thanks for being with us. A key question about where do we go going forward. You heard the president explain his policy, explaining that he wants regime change, but it is not the mandate of the military coalition. If you look at the map here, the red is Gaddafi-controlled towns. This is where we were the day before the coalition attacks started, and Gaddafi's forces had come to the east, taken Ras Lanuf, taken El Brega. Ajdabe at that point was a bit uncertain. That's where we were then. Then a few days in, you see a little bit started to change. This is where we are today. And the green being the opposition, they have taken back these key cities here. But as they go this way, Arwa Damon, you heard her on the ground saying, as they head this way towards Sirte, Gaddafi's hometown, they're beginning to face resistance. What does the coalition do when the UN document, the resolution, says their mandate is to stop violence against civilians? If civilians in these towns, loyal to Gaddafi, fire on the opposition forces and the opposition fires back, what is the coalition's mandate?
Well, I think that you got to step back for a second, because I think the simple answer to that, the coalition mandate, is to work the big picture. In other words, what the coalition will do is continue to go after the tanks and armored vehicles that Gaddafi is using. It'll continue to look at Misrata, if it can do anything about Misrata. Then with respect to something like Sirte, when the rebels get to Sirte, or the opposition gets to Sirte, they're going to have to talk to the people in Sirte. And this is about the whole concept of momentum. It's what kind of future the people of Sirte want. It doesn't have to be resolved by guns. They need to talk,
but
not shoot.
Civil wars are often resolved by guns.
They might be.
If they cannot reach that dialogue, though, and civilians start shooting at the opposition, what does the coalition then do? Its mandate is to stop the violence. Does it shoot on the opposition? If the opposition has picked up tanks, picked up rockets, picked up military equipment from the Gaddafi forces that have abandoned the front on this end, if they are using them against civilians who are pro-Gaddafi, does the coalition have an obligation under UN Resolution 1973 to stop them?
Well, I don't think they're going to do that. They've already pulled back, and they don't want to cross that line. Well, I don't think they want to cross that line. I think the opposition is going to be very careful about this. Now, what the opposition would like to see is they'd like to see the coalition tighten the noose on Gaddafi. So let's say there's resistance in Sirte. Fine. Well, they'll find a way to bypass and try to get to Misrata. They'll try to put their forces in a position where the coalition has to act against the bulk of Gaddafi's forces and let Sirte be handled by the sense of inevitability of the opposition victory.
I want to bring something else down. You were the NATO Supreme Allied Commander. When you look at a map like this, you have the operation centers that have been set up in Italy, set up here and here. Are you now confident when the president says by Wednesday, NATO takes this over, the United States steps back, yes, it uses some capabilities to help and support, are you now confident there is a command structure in place that will bring about an organized and coordinated military response within the mandate of the resolution and within the political debate, if you will, that has happened within NATO?
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue. I think that structure's already there. It's there's a linkage between the U.S. command structure and the NATO command structure. And as the president said, we'll continue to provide command and control and intelligence and other things. All of the backbone of this. And it's really about putting an allied chain of command through NATO so that you bring other political leadership in, and others have to take responsibility for the actions. The U.S. will still be engaged in here, and I'm not concerned about the technicalities of command and control. I am concerned about the issues you're raising. But again, to go back to this, John, I think it's what the president said is there's a certain line at which the military mission cuts off. And above that, to get to the goals, got to do other things. It's about establishing momentum by the military mission and then using international law, diplomacy, the isolation. The opposition says that down in here is where the mercenaries are coming through, right in here in the south. And so they would also like they'd like to see Gaddafi squeezed all the way around. I've heard stories of Algerian pilots and Syrian tank commanders. I can't verify this, but this is what you hear in there. And so the purpose of the opposition, supported by the coalition, is to create a sense of inevitability that causes people to talk rather than fight.
It's the supported by the coalition part that I think gets complicated as we start moving this way in parts of the country that tend to be more loyal to Gaddafi. We'll continue this conversation a bit later in the program. General Clark, thank you. Back to Wolf.
Thanks very much, guys. When we come back, our own Elliot Spitzer is going to be speaking with Fareed Zakaria. He's got some strong views on what we just heard from the President of the United States. And Anderson and I will check in with all of our reporters in the region, much more of our coverage on the President's address to the nation right after this.